Welcome back, everyone. In today's video, I'm going to cover game 55 of a First Book of Morphy. We are in endgame rule number 5. When one pawn ahead, exchange pieces and not pawns. We have here blindfold simultaneous exhibition in Paris 1858. Paul Morphy with the white pieces versus M. Seguin with the Philidor defense. So let's go over the game. Okay, e4, e5. The Philidor defense, d4. Knight f6, knight c3, bishop b7, bishop d3. Here the author comments that white might have been in an experimental mood rather than the natural bishop c4. He intended to play, bishop d3 to free his bishop with f4, and then later on e5, and then again the light squared bishop has the d3 through h7 diagonal. Okay, we have castles by black, f4, c5. Black gains some breathing room at the cost of a weak pawn on d6. He would have been happier if he'd played c5 a move sooner, because then if white had retreated the knight to f3, he would have blocked his own pawn from reaching the center, right? So let's go back one move. Instead of castling, if white plays c5, then now white goes knight f3 and he blocks his pawn. He blocks his f pawn, right? And then black would have castled. So knight f3 by white, knight c6, castles, bishop g4, bishop e3, a6, a4, preventing black from gaining more space with b5 and then c5. h6. This would be a useless move unless black plans to improve his bad bishop by knight h7, then bishop f6. Okay, so if this is black's plan, then that's fine, right? Knight h7, and then bishop move it to f6. We're going to hit this diagonal. The author does recommend a different strategy for this. Bishop f6, of course, is going to decentralize the knight and gives up control of d5. A better method would be rook e8, okay, and then bishop f8, followed by g6, and then bishop g7. Kind of like a type of fianchetto setup with a pawn on h6. So we keep going h3. Now black must give up the bishop for a knight or slide further into cramp by pulling his bishop back. So pretty much black has to trade. If black goes bishop h5, then we have, again, g4, bishop g6, then f4, and then now bishop can go back to h7, but it's pretty much stuck there, and black has the pawns on the light squares and has gained space in the on the king side. So we have bishop captures f3, queen captures f3, knight b4, attacking the bishop. Rook a to d1, queen c7, b3, knight captures d3, c captures d3, rook f to e8, d4, queen c6, d captures c5, d captures c5, e5, queen captures f3, rook captures f3, knight h7, rook d7, rook a to b8. Here the author comments that a rook sent to defend one pawn is not a 5-point rook, but a 1-point rook. Knight d5, centralizing with the threat. So bishop f8, bishop f2. The plan is to improve the rook by shifting it to the c file or d file. Rook e to d8, knight b6, rook captures d7, knight captures d7, rook c8, rook to c3, rook to c7, knight captures f8, knight captures f8, rook captures c5. So again, it's in this position where white wins a pawn, right? And he trades the rooks for it. And then after this, you just have to convert this winning position for white with an extra pawn. Bishop e3, g6, and g4. So quickly before black plays h5. Eventually, white will make a pass pawn by playing f5 and then e6, right? So f5, g captures f5, g captures f5, and then once the knight gets out of the way, maybe the king will go up and help this push, but it's going to be eventually e6. F captures e6, F captures e6, and now we have a pass pawn here on e6 with the king should be here to support this this pass pawn here, and also the bishop should be somewhere in here to help escort this pawn. Again, but he must prepare for f5 with g4. So in order to make this push, you have to, and he takes, you gotta make sure you have a pawn here to take. So you gotta play g4. If black had played h5, okay, so now if black had played h5, then white has to exchange 3 sets of pawns on the way to achieving e6. So now black plays h5, then g4, h captures g5, h captures g5, and then white is going to play f5, g captures f5, g captures f5, then e6, right? e6, f captures e6, f captures e6. So 3 sets of pawns. However, since white can play gh5 to avoid the swap of one pawn before pushing f5, okay? So now if white goes g4 and then black plays h5, then just white trades on h5. So g captures h5, and then g has to capture on f5. And now we have 2 versus 1. So we go f5 first and then e6. Again, when you are 1 pawn ahead, trade pieces but not pawns. So let's continue. g4, knight d8, king f2, knight c6. Black repositioned his knight to control a5 so that white cannot answer b5 with a5, right? So again, black is preparing to play b5, and then white wants to play f5, but if he plays f5, then the knight will take on a5, right? King e2, b5, a captures b5, a captures b5. Here the author says white would rather have a b pawn than the a pawn that remains after bishop a4, ba4, because a b pawn queens on a square that cannot be controlled by his bishop, that can be controlled by his bishop. So that means that this pawn is going to queen on a dark square, which is the bishop can help defend. So king d3. From here, white must not let the b pawns come off the board, for then his winning chances diminish greatly. The king must be active in the endgame, and in this case, he must prepare to guard the b3 pawn before black plays knight f5, and after which a defensive b4 would inhibit the white bishop. Not the white bishop, but the dark squared bishop. So again, black is going to play knight f5 to attack the pawn, and after b4, it's going to be on a dark square, which is going to block the mobility of a dark squared bishop, of the white dark squared bishop. So king f8, bishop c5 check. In any endgame of bishop against knight, the bishop should restrict the knight as much as possible. 4 of the knight's 8 squares are covered by the bishop. So b4, d4, a7, and e7. King e8, king e4, king d7, king d5, knight d8, f5, g captures f5, g captures f5, h5, bishop e6. Threatening to take here, knight b7, e6 check, f captures e6, f captures e6, king e7, king c6. One must use one's extra pawn, set fine, to break through with white with pieces to gain more material. So again, he's using this extra pawn as a sacrifice. King takes, and then the king takes the knight on b7. So knight d8 check, bishop captures d8, king captures d8, king d6, king e8, e7, and here black resigned. So here if you calculate this whole sequence, you can see that black is in zugzwang, right? Black, after white plays king to e6, black has 2 extra moves, and that's it. So b4, king e6. Again, this is stalemate, except black has 1 move. h4, and then king d6, and then black can go king e7, king d7, king f6, and then e8 queen. And again, white pretty much wins in this position. So again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.